14 things you definitely want to know about buying a home out here in Hawaii that could save you thousands of dollars, tons of headaches, and a lot of things you probably weren't aware of when it comes to certain types of taxes. So make sure you stick around to get all the details. See you on the other side. All right, guys, so like I mentioned in this video, we're gonna cover 14 different things that are very unique to Hawaii and things you wanna keep in mind when looking to buy a home out here that you might not be aware of. Now, before we jump into that, let me quickly introduce myself if this is your first time here. My name is Patrick Longley. I'm a licensed real estate agent out here in Hawaii and have been for nearly a decade, helping buyers, sellers, and investors with their real estate needs. If you have any questions or just need some boots on the ground, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you. I've got my contact information right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. With that being said, let's jump into the 14 things that you need to be aware of when buying a home out here in Hawaii. The first thing you want to be aware of is traffic and how the traffic flows, because this could really change your lifestyle if you're not aware of this before you buy a house or move somewhere on this island. So what you need to understand is how the traffic flows. Now, basically what happens is in the morning, everybody leaves their house and they go to the hub, which is Honolulu. And in the evening, they go from Honolulu back to the outskirts to their homes. So just to give you an example, if you were to go from, let's say, Kapolei to Honolulu, if you were to go when there isn't any traffic, it might only be 30 minutes. But if you go during those high peak hours, that time could triple, and that drive could take you, instead of 30 minutes, it could take you anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half. So it's really important that you understand this, because traffic can really change your lifestyle. Number 2 is whether you're okay with a fixer-upper or you want a turnkey property. Now, this is important to understand because a lot of the homes out here, depending on where you're buying, for example, if you're buying over in Kapolei Ewa, a lot of the homes are going to be built in the 2000s. In Mililani, 1980. In the condos, you're going to find a lot built in the 70s. If you're on the windward side, it might be built in the 40s or 50s. And some of these homes may or may not be renovated. So you might find yourself in a situation where you have to or want to be in the Kailua, but your budget only allows you, let's say, 1.1 million, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but 1.1 million in Kailua is gonna get you a sugar shack. And if you take that same money and go to, let's say, Kapolei or Ewa, you could get pretty much a brand new home for Hawaii standards, double wall construction, dual pane windows, split ACs, and not a sugar shack like you get in Kailua. So it's really important to understand whether you're open to a fixer-upper or a turnkey property. And if it's a fixer-upper, you really wanna understand, well, is this just floors and paint, or am I gonna have to redo the roof, the foundation, windows, ACs, and how much is all that gonna cost? And again, if you need help with that, give me a call and give you some general ideas on how much it costs to do that kind of stuff. Number 3 is HOAs. HOAs are a necessary evil, and you will find in condos and townhomes, 100% of the time, they will be in an association or have an HOA due. Now, HOAs on average generally go up 4 to 15% every single year. Now, we have seen, and I've got a video that goes over right here, that we have seen them increasing anywhere between 20 and 40% because of insurance issues. I won't get into that, but it is something you need to factor in when you're looking to buy a home. Is, are you okay with a home that has an HOA? Because there are certain single family homes, specifically in the Kapolei, Ewa, Makakilo, Ko'olina, some of those areas where developers came in and built a bunch of homes, they will have an HOA. Those HOAs could be anywhere from $50 to $800. It just really depends. So when you are shopping for a home, make sure that you are factoring that in, and whether you're okay with having an association, and more importantly, what is that monthly due and what does it cover? Number 5 would be to review the Big 5. Now, what is this? Now, what I mean by this is that when you are going to look at a home and you're doing your inspection, you want to focus your energy on what we call the Big 5. And those are going to be things that could be of structural or safety concern, or things that can be on the higher price point of getting resolved. And this is something that your agent can assist you with getting quotes to see how much it costs to fix those things. Now, what are those Big 5? Those Big 5 are going to be foundation, roof, plumbing, electrical, and appliances. I threw in the 5th one just recently because if you're gonna be buying $1 million home, you wanna make sure that the fridge still works. So it might be something you might ask the seller to actually give you credit for or replace. But those are the 5 things that you want to keep an eye out for when you're doing your inspection. Is that, do I have an electrical issue? Is the roof need to be replaced? Is the foundation looking like it's cracking or it's slanting a bit? These are all things that can cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 and can be super expensive. So you want to make sure when you're doing your inspection, Are any of those issues that came up fall into the big five? And are they gonna be major issues or minor issues? Number 6 is leasehold versus fee simple. So out here in Hawaii, there's generally 2 types of properties that you can purchase. We have leasehold and we have fee simple. Fee simple is what you're probably used to, what everybody who's used to on the mainland, where you buy the house and you own the land and you own the structure. Well, leasehold is a little different, where you actually own the structure, but you're renting the land. Now, generally, leasehold is a horrible investment. 99% of the time, I say don't even bother looking at leasehold, because what can happen is if that lease only has 5 years left on it, you're not only paying a fee to rent the land, but after 5 years comes and goes, you may have to give the land back and everything that's on top of it, even that you own the structure, because you can't move the structure. So I highly suggest that if you are looking at properties and you see a property that's $99,000 with an ocean view and 1,500 square feet and 3 bedrooms, it's most likely leasehold and it's a horrible investment. So don't even bother looking at it. Number 7 is property taxes. Now, surprisingly enough, everything out here is extremely expensive, but property taxes is one of the lowest in the nation. Now, it does have different breakdowns and brackets. As you can see on the screen, there's a bunch of different ways that those property taxes can break down. But generally, if you are buying a residential home that's $1 million or less by the assessed value, your property taxes would be 0.35% of the assessed property value. Now, why do I keep saying assessed? Well, that's because the property assessed value is based on a drive-by appraisal, essentially. Is that every single year the tax man will drive by, he's not gonna go inside your house, he might not even drive by, he might just look on his computer, and he's gonna put a valuation to that property. Not on what you purchased it for, you might have bought it for 1.5, but the property tax assessed value, which generally is way lower than the actual market value, is going to be what they base their property tax formula on. So it's going to be 0.35% of the assessed value. Again, it depends on which bracket you're in, but that's the general formula that you're going to be looking at for property taxes out here. Number 8 is HARPTA and FERPTA tax withholding. Now that's the key word there, guys, is withholding. It's not an extra tax per se, it's a tax withholding. So let's break down each one of these so that you have a better understanding of how much it is and how it works. Now, HARPTA is for when you sell the property, there is an amount that they're going to hold from you, which is 7.25% of the gross sales price, not your net, the gross sales price that they're actually going to withhold if you're selling a property and it's not your primary residence and you don't live in it or live on the island. So this is a tax for non-resident people selling their property. Now, FERPTA is for foreigners. That is a 15% gross sales tax that they're going to withhold when you're selling the property if you are a foreigner who owns an investment property out here and is obviously not a resident. Now, ironically, if you are a foreigner, you are also a non-resident from the United States. So you actually would get hit with 15 plus 7.25%. So that's over 22% of a tax withholding of the gross sale. So that is a chunk of change, but things to keep in mind is that this is not an additional tax. This is money that the taxman is gonna take from you. They're gonna hold on to it. They're gonna take their piece of the pie from the proceeds of your capital gains, and then they will return the rest of it to you. The reason why they put this into place is because back in the day, there was a lot of foreigners or people from the mainland that bought investment properties. They sold that property, made out like bandits, and did not pay the local state tax for their capital gains. So this is how they basically solve that problem, is they withhold a bunch of money from you, they take their piece, and then eventually return it back to you. Now, there are some waivers on how you can avoid this, but that's for a different video, or feel free to reach out to me. Got my number right here where we can talk more about HARPTA and FERPTA tax. Number 9 is appreciation of homes. Now, generally when it comes to investing in real estate, you are looking for one of two things. Very difficult to get both. You're either looking for cash flow. That means that if you bought a home and your monthly payment is, let's say, $3,000 a month, and you can rent it for $3,500 a month, you have $500 of cash flow. The other side of things is appreciation. You want to buy into a market that has appreciation. So maybe you buy it for $1 million and it goes up in value every single year by 5%. So every single year you're making $50,000 in appreciation. So now that you bought the property for $1 million, next year it's worth $1.05 million, and the year after that it's worth a little over $1.01 million. That's appreciation. That's where the value of the property is actually going up. It's very difficult to get both. Out here in Hawaii, we are in appreciation market. You very rarely will get cash flow. You generally are purchasing or investing for appreciation. Now, this is important to understand because I like appreciation more than cash flow personally, because I can leverage appreciation. If I bought a property for $1 million and now it's worth 1.5, I now have $500,000 that's a non-taxable event that I can actually borrow money on and purchase more property with. Now, that's for a different video, we can discuss that. But with cash flow, that is a taxable event. I just made an extra $500 of cash flow, and now I'm gonna get taxed, depending on my bracket, probably 20 to 30% on every dollar that I make from that taxable event. So even though I have $500 in cash flow, I just created a taxable event, so I have to pay taxes on that. And I don't get too excited over basically $6,000 a year when an appreciation, if I'm getting on the low end, in Hawaii, we see generally on average 4 to 8%, 4 to 10% every single year. I get more excited about $50,000 a year opposed to $6,000 a year. So those are just kinds of things you have to keep in mind, that out here, this is an appreciation market. Number 10, how long does it take to actually close on a property? Well, just like on the rest of the mainland, it generally takes 30 to 45 days to close on a property out here if you're using a general loan, whether that's VA, conventional, FHA, USDA. Generally gonna take 30 to 45 days, but if you are paying with cash, generally you can close in about 2 to 3 weeks. You can't close immediately because escrow does need to run a prelim and title insurance and things of that nature, but that's generally the timing that you're looking at. It's pretty much the same on the mainland, 30 to 45 days with an actual loan, and you're probably looking at about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks max if you're paying all cash. Number 11 is termites. Now, we live out here in the tropics, and I always like to tell my clients that termites is not something that you ask, do I have termites? The question you really need to ask yourself is, how bad of termites do I actually have? Because everybody has termites. So when you are actually purchasing a home, generally, if you're gonna be using a loan, you are required to get a termite inspection. It's just a standard protocol out here in Hawaii. And what you're really looking for is, do I have termites and how bad are those termites? But once again, when you do get that termite inspection, they are gonna tell you if there are termites. I don't want you to freak out if there are. You really need to ask yourself, how bad are the termites? Are they in the structural beams? Are they in the roof? Are they in the foundation? Are they all over the house? Or are they only in one area? Are they just in the cabinets? These are things that are important to understand, because if the termites are just in the cabinets, that could be solved by just basically a little bit of spot treatment, which is like $60 to $80 a squirt. Or if they're just in one part of the house, it's not really creating any structural issues. Generally, you find them like in the trim. Then it's not really anything that's gonna make the house fall over. But if you do have termites all over the house, or you have termites in the structural beams or in the foundation, these are things that you want to be concerned about. Number 12 is garages versus carports. Now, depending on where you're buying the home, the price point, you are going to find a lot of carports versus garages. Now, of course, we have plenty of properties out here that do have garages, but we have even more that have carports. And what a carport generally is basically a garage with no walls. It's basically just a ceiling. It's a way to protect your car from out of the sun. And it's something that we see a lot out here, especially on the windward side where I live, but basically all over the island. You will see garages all over the island as well, but you would definitely, if I was to bet my bottom dollar, you would probably have about 70% carports versus the amount of garages out here. So if you want to buy a house that has a garage, I would highly suggest that you go shop probably on the Ewa Kapolei Makakilo side, or anywhere where there's newer developments, where these new developers have actually built homes with garages, because a lot of the older homes built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s are basically gonna have carports. Now, you can generally convert a carport into a garage reasonably easily, put up a couple walls, put up an actual system for a garage door, and you're set. But we do have a lot of carports out here versus garages. Number 13 is design of homes. Now, again, depending on what side of the island you are and when that home was built, you will see different types of homes. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, if you are buying a home, again, on the windward side, I live over here, so I'm gonna use that as an example. You will find a lot of the homes that were originally built out here, again, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, that are gonna have single wall construction. That basically means that they have tongue and groove, actual slats that are put together, and that holds the structural integrity of the home. And you'll see that it doesn't have basically studs that you generally see on a home on the mainland, where they basically have 2x4s, they frame the house, you have drywall and you have siding and you have insulation. This is completely different, where you have tongue and groove, which basically gives you no insulation and allows cold air to get out and hot air to get in, and also sound can travel pretty easily through these single wall. You also see lots of what we call jalousie windows. These are like basically louver windows, which is really nice for bringing in the breeze, but once again, doesn't really keep that cold air in if you have AC. You also see lots of homes built on what we call post and pier. So that's where the home's actually lifted up and actually on a bunch of posts or piers that keep the house up and off the ground, opposed to slab foundation. And a lot of times you'll have, if you have AC, you generally will have window AC units or what we call split AC units. You don't see a lot of central AC unless, once again, you're on the west side or some of those newer developed places. Now, this does not mean that you can't find homes that are more like the mainland style, where you do have double wall construction, dual pane windows, central AC, slab foundation. You can definitely find those, but it just really depends on your price point and of course, what part of the island you're actually looking at. And number 14 is different beach living lifestyles. What do I mean by that? What I mean is when you are looking for a home and you're saying, hey, I'm living in Hawaii, I want to be close to the beach. Now, essentially you have 3 different styles of living near to the beach. The first one and the obvious one is to live on the water. Absolutely beautiful, gorgeous views, close access to the beach, but it's gonna take a toll on your home. You're gonna factor in lots of maintenance because of the salt water, but of course, you're close to the water and you have a beautiful view. The second option is you can live on the mountain, or you can live up high where you have a view of the ocean and maybe you're not too far from the beach. This is my preferred choice because I get the beautiful view when I'm drinking my coffee and I don't have too much maintenance on the house. And the second option would be living somewhere in the flats. That would be somewhere that's actually close to the ocean, close to the beach, within walking distance, but you don't actually see it. This one, you're not gonna get as much toll on the house. It might be a little bit cheaper than living on the actual beach, but you're not gonna have the view that you would have either on the beach or on the mountain. So those are essentially your 3 different beach living lifestyles if you wanna live by the beach. Okay guys, well that pretty much wraps it up. If you guys could do me a huge favor, if you guys got any value out of this video, if you could smash that like button as well as click the subscribe and notification bell, I would truly appreciate it. And if you wanna talk story or just connect with me, feel free to reach out to me. I got my contact information right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. With that being said, I'm Patrick with PatrickLongleyRealty.com, powered by eXp Realty. Hope you have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you soon. Aloha.